Good afternoon to all. Today I'm here with a small topic that is pulmonary edema. Uh, so it is a common topic, and we all have seen the patient with pulmonary edema, and we have treated the patient, and we are given care for such patients also. So we can see what is pulmonary edema and how it happens and all. Thus, pulmonary edema, in the sense, pulmonary edema is a condition characterized by fluid accumulation in the lungs caused by extravasation of fluid from the pulmonary vasculature into the interstitium and alveoli of the lungs. Simple in the sense, a simple meaning in the sense, it is excess accumulation of fluid in the alveoli. See in this picture, we can see the normal lungs, a normal alveoli, and a abnormal one, that is fluid filled alveoli. So in this picture, the fluid filled alveoli, what happened, like leaking of capillaries happens. Thus, it enters into the lungs. So that is the thing happens in pulmonary edema. We have classification like cardiogenic pulmonary edema and non-cardiogenic pulmonary edema. Cardiogenic pulmonary edema, since it is, as a word indicates, it all related to cardiological problem. And other than things that other disorders, like other than cardiological problem, it includes in non-cardiogenic pulmonary edema. So cardiogenic pulmonary edema, the main causes like we have left ventricular failure, dysarrhythmia, left ventricular hypertrophy and cardiomyopathy, left ventricular volume overload, myocardial infarction, left ventricular outflow obstruction. So we can see the pathogenesis of this cardiogenic pulmonary edema. As I told, one of the most reason is left-sided heart failure. So in left-sided heart failure, there will be decreased pumping ability to the systemic circulation, congestion and accumulation of blood in the pulmonary area, fluid leaks out of the intravascular space into interstitium, accumulation of fluid, pulmonary edema. So this thing happens in cardiogenic pulmonary edema. In non-cardiogenic pulmonary edema, in the sense, we have neurogenic pulmonary edema, re-expansion pulmonary edema, high altitude pulmonary edema. In case of neurogenic, it is related to some CNS disorders with apparent pre-existing LV dysfunction. Re-expansion pulmonary edema, in the sense, we have developed after removal of air or fluid post thoracendosis, that is thoracendosis. Then high altitude pulmonary edema, in the sense, we occurs in young people who goes quickly ascend to the high altitude, that is about 2700 meter. It is reversible within 48 hours. So these are the causes of pulmonary edema. It is classified as cardiogenic and non-cardiogenic. So non-cardiogenic, in the sense, some neurological, it can be categorized like neurogenic pulmonary edema, re-expansion pulmonary edema, high altitude pulmonary edema. Next, we have pathogenesis of non-cardiogenic pulmonary edema. Pathogenesis, in the sense, as I told, as a person goes in high altitude, there will be decrease in the oxygen level. It means the hypoxemic state, like arterial oxygen level will be decreased, leads to pulmonary constriction, vasoconstriction, leads to pulmonary hypertension, overperfusion will be there, increased capillary pressure leads to capillary stress failure, in the sense leaking of capillary will take place. So that leads to high altitude pulmonary edema. So this is a pathogenesis of non-cardiogenic pulmonary edema. Next, we can see the stages of pulmonary edema. Like we have three stages. The three stages of pulmonary edema can be distinguished based on the degree of fluid accumulation. Like we have stage 1, all excess fluid can still be cleared by lymphatic drainage. Second is characterized by presence of interstitial edema. Third is characterized by alveolar edema due to altered alveolar, like alveolar capillary permeability. So these are three stages of pulmonary edema. Like first stage means can be cleared by lymphatic drainage. Second, in the sense, that is interstitial edema will take place. Third is there is a alteration in the alveolar capillary permeability, in the sense leaking of capillary take place. Next is clinical manifestation, like we have acute, chronic. Acute, in the sense, we have severe shortness of breath, cough with sputum, profuse sweating, cyanosis, anxiety, restlessness, palpitation, chest pain. Chronic, in the sense, we have paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea, orthopnea, rapid weight gain, loss of appetite, fatigue, ankle and leg swelling. Signs, in the sense, we have tachycardia, tachypnea, confusion, agitation, anxious, diaphoresis, hypertension, cool extremities, crepitant rails, jugular vein distension. Next, we can see the complication, like we have leg swelling, abdominal swelling like ascites, pleural effusion, congestion and swelling of liver, acute heart attack like MI, cardiogenic shock, arrhythmia, electrolyte disturbance, mesenteric insufficiency, protein enteropathy, respiratory arrest and death. So these are the complication. Next we can see the diagnostic evaluation. So we have CBC like in case of severe anemia, serum electrolyte like hypokalemia will take place. ABGs, as I told, patient will have hypoxemia, hypocapnia with respiratory alkalosis. ECG, mainly we have acute MI, bradydysarrhythmia, tachydysarrhythmia. UST will be taken. Then chest X-ray, it shows like enlarged heart, inverted blood flow, absence of air bronchogram, then bilateral and symmetrical pleural effusion. So in this X-ray figure, you can see the enlargement of heart. Next we can see echo. Echo means shows like acute papillary muscle rupture, acute VST, cardiac tamponade, acute severe mitral regurgitation, acute severe mitral regurgitation, aortic regurgitation. Next we can go to the management part. Like we have medical management in the sense will mainly the first foremost thing is airway, circulation, breathing. Means ABC, like airway, breathing, circulation will go. That is resuscitation of the patient, first foremost thing. That is oxygen, supplemental oxygen and all. Like we'll place a patient BiPAP or CPAP, that is mechanical ventilation support will give. Then medical management, like we'll go for mainly reduction of preload and reduction of afterload. Preload will go with administering of NDG like nitroglycerin, sublingually or IV. Like first more than 100 mcg per minute will give. Then 3 mg IV bolus for every 5 minutes will give. Then diuretics like loop diuretics will be administered. Then afterload reduction will give AC inhibitors, angiotensin II receptor blockers, then nitroprusside. So these are medication will reduce the afterload. Then we'll have inotropic support like dopamine, norepinephrine, dobutamine. Then intra-aortic balloon pumping. Mainly it is help in increasing the cardiac output, reduce the afterload, then reduce the left atrial pressure and improves the cardiogenic pulmonary edema. Next, the medical care, like the first foremost medical care that we give to the patient, like we'll go for oxygen supplementation. Mainly with pulmonary edema, patient will have oxygen supplementation. If not able to with the normal concentrated oxygen, we'll start with BiPAP or CPAP. Mechanical ventilation support will give to the patient. Then diuretics will administer to reduce the fluid, that is loop diuretics will give. Then inotropic support will be given. Then treatment of high altitude pulmonary edema. As I told, it is mostly in young people who goes higher than 2000, that is quickly who ascend to high altitude like above 2700 meter. That it can be reversible within 48 hours. But in some cases it may become worsen. So such treatment like will go for supplemental oxygen, nifedipine 10 mg sublingual or 20 mg sustained release of 6 hourly, then hydralazine. So these are the things that we given to the person who is having high altitude pulmonary edema. Like nursing diagnosis, we have excess fluid volume, impaired gas exchange, disturbed body image, risk for impaired skin integrity, risk for complication like pulmonary edema, ascites. So the main nursing intervention, like we have first is help the patient to relax to promote oxygenation, place the patient in high follows position to enhance lung expansion, administer oxygen as ordered, carefully record the time morphine is given and amount administered, assess the patient condition frequently, be alert to development of new non-productive cough, auscultate the lung field for breath sound and be alert for crackles, watch for complications of the treatment such as electrolyte, assess for edema especially in dependent areas such as angles and sacrum, monitor the oximetry and report the findings of less than 92% to the anterior posterior, monitor ABG result of presence of hypoxemia and hypercapnia, assess for the signs of hypoxia, restlessness, confusion, headache, monitor ECG for dysarrhythmia, development that may lead to hypoxemia, acid-base imbalance or ventricular irritability. Keep ready the emergency equipment like airway, ambu bag, intubation tray. Closely monitor the IO chart. record weight daily and record of steady gaining. Monitor the vital signs every 15 to 30 minutes or more often as indicated. Provide frequent mouth care to reduce the dryness of the mucous membrane. Keep the environment calm and quiet. Be alert for signs of increasing respiratory distress. Like we'll go for patient education, that health maintenance, like we have teach the patient about early symptoms before onset of acute pulmonary edema. If coughing develops, a wet cough, it is with it with the leg dangling over the side of bed, teach the patient to take slow and deep breath to increase oxygenation. Teach the patient to take sodium restricted diet. Watch for weight gain. So this is about pulmonary edema. Um so we have seen what is pulmonary edema and what is the classification, and discussed on each classification how these thing, that is these pulmonary edema occurs, and you have seen on clinical manifestation, diagnosis and management. So thank you.